Good afternoon, everyone. It's Audrey here coming to you live for some more training again, some more healthy shift worker trainings. I hope everyone's doing well. Excuse me. You're all well, all things considered, given the crazy kind of hours that you work. But you know, that's why you're here. Obviously, a part of the group is to kind of learn how you can, you know, become a healthier shift worker, which is really, really good. So I'll just wait a few minutes just to see who I can, as people kind of come on. So I know I can see a few people that are on already, but I'll just give it another maybe 30 seconds or more to see before I actually get started. But I guess initially, yeah, it's just to welcome all the new members again. I can see there's sort of a steady kind of stream of new people joining the group, which is wonderful. I know that you come here from all different places all around the world and from all different backgrounds, and you know, this really is designed, you know, for shift workers to kind of come together to hang out with each other and bounce ideas off each other, and because no one kind of gets us, you know, unless we work shift work. I'm sure that you can all agree with that. We're definitely a different breed than our 9-to-5 cousins, that's for sure. So yeah, but if you're new, so welcome. Thank you for being a part of this group, and I generally hope that you find it valuable with the information that I share, either through these trainings or your fellow shift workers amongst this group. You know, you're sharing different tips and strategies that you do, because I'm just one person. You know, I can share my knowledge and information, but you know, I don't know everything. That is absolutely for sure. I just want to put it out there. I'm always continually learning and doing research to find ways to help you guys. But again, you know, some of your colleagues can, you know, also share some wonderful things. And I've seen that already in this group, which is great. So, all right. So what we might do is we'll get started. For those of you who are new to watching this, welcome. My name is Audrey Starkey. I am a shift work veteran accredited trainer, but also clinically trained nutritionist that does have a very much passion on all things to do with shift work health. So if you are catching this on the live, please type in 1 below so I can see that you actually are here, or if you're catching it on the replay, please just type in 2. It just kind of gives me a bit of an idea of when people are kind of coming on. I know I can't catch everyone. People are at work, people are at different time zones, but it just helps me to gauge who is watching and the sort of feedback that I'm getting as well. So that's great. Oh, hi Leanne, thanks so much for joining me, and that's great. Where are you from, Leanne? Are you an Australian or some other exotic location overseas? So what I'll do is I'll get started, but I will be referring to my notes. For those of you who've watched my training before, I do get quite involved, but I do that because I want to make sure that I'm sharing everything with you. Oh, hi Steve. Hi Jess, nice to see you. Thank you everyone for so much for joining me. So let us get started on the topic of what to eat when we are tired. Like, kind of often, isn't it, when we work shift work? We're in this continual shift work fog, I suppose, is a way of kind of describing it. We're in this constant fatigue. We're tired all the time, that we've kind of almost forgotten what it's like not to be tired, which is a bit sad, but it actually is. It is actually a very real kind of situation. So if you have, I guess, firstly, watched any of the trainings that I have done previously, and more specifically, I suppose that one that I did on Is There a Perfect Shift Work Diet, then you'll know that I'm not really specifically in favour of one specific diet per se, or dietary pattern, unless of course you would be on a particular health condition. In that case, you know, if there's therapeutic reasons why you should be following a particular diet. Again, I just don't like that word diet. Then I can appreciate why people want to follow it. And you know, and I know that some of you watching have probably been on certain particular diets, like the paleo and the gluten-free and the dairy-free and the carb and, you know, high carb, low carb, keto and all that kind of stuff. And if it's worked for you, fantastic. But I guess I'm more really about looking at ways to support what the body needs, in specifically when you are running on disrupted sleep, as opposed to kind of eliminating any particular foods, food groups or nutrients. I'm kind of more about adding in as opposed to sort of getting into that sort of restrictive kind of mindset, because I think when we know, if you tell me I can't have something, I don't know about you, but I'm always going, well, I want it now, like I really want it. But, you know, that's kind of how it is. Oh, Leanne, you're in Australia, in Melbourne. Just got in bed after night shift. Oh, okay. I hope that was your last night shift then and you don't have any more, because otherwise I'll be hoping that you're sleeping. But thank you for joining me. All right, so let's get straight into the topic, what to eat when we're tired. So before I get into the specifics, I suppose, you know, we need to first ask ourselves why we are fatigued in the first place, besides the obvious of shift work and that disrupted actual sleep. Because there are many, many, many causes of fatigue. For example, I'll just run through a handful. So if you're not eating enough, if you don't actually have enough nourishment in your body, then you will automatically feel fatigued. If you are leading a sedentary lifestyle where you're not doing much exercise, again, I guess the catch-22 part about that is that it makes you actually even more tired. Like when we're tired, we don't want to exercise, but if we don't exercise, it kind of makes it kind of even worse. Nutritional deficiency, so things like iron, if you're deficient in that, that can also make you feel tired. A compromised immune system, especially if you are, you know, have something like glandular fever, that can definitely make you feel super tired. Poor digestion. If your digestion is not working really well, then the body is unable to absorb or assimilate any of that nutrient. So you can eat really, really well, but if your digestive system is not functioning well, then you're not getting the nutrition to be able to help to keep you going with the energy that you need. Oh, hi, Costas. Thanks for joining all the way from Greece. All the way through, of course, to, you know, if you're somebody that has a high stress job, or you are somebody that's just always go, go, go all the time and you're not allowing your body any time to rest at all. If that's the case, then you are just going to be fatigued, hands down. Like, because if you're combining that with shift work and you don't have an off switch, if you can go, 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 yes, your body is probably going to let you do it for a little while, but it eventually is going to catch up with you, 100% sure. And I do unfortunately see that in some of my clients, where they are just burning the candle. Or I say with many shift workers, it's not just burning the candle at both ends, but I think we kind of set fire to the bit in the middle as well. We just push ourselves so much. So if that's the case, then of course you're going to feel tired. But for the purpose of this training, I really want to focus around the reason is that you have had, you know, more towards insufficient sleep, where you're at work and you haven't slept really well. So like with all the trainings I do, of course, I just want to put a general disclaimer through that this is designed to be general and educational advice only. It's not designed to be specific prescriptive advice. If that's the case, then I would recommend seeing your own healthcare practitioner. So I'm going to start by giving you 3 just general kind of recommendations, and then I'm going to break it down into 2 parts for you. So 3 general recommendations, and then I want to break it down onto giving you specific examples of like what to eat when you're on an early shift to give you some more energy, and what to eat on night shift to kind of support your energy a little bit, because it can be a little bit different because our bodies are sort of functioning at different times of the day. Costas has just said 5 a.m. ending in a night shift. Thanks for the cool time burner. Okay, you're still at work. Love it. I love it when people are catching me at work. It's a bit sneaky, but you know, you're investing in your health and well-being. So I think it's a good thing. So let's begin with my 3 general recommendations around what to eat when we're tired. So number 1 is that in order to reduce our fatigue overall, is actually we do need to be eating. Because if you are on a diet where you are constantly restricting your food intake, or you're basically not eating much all day, then that's going to send a signal to your brain that it is starving and it needs to go into survival mode because food is scarce. Okay, so what happens when your body is not getting enough sufficient food? So if you're just on a diet again, I had to say the word diet again, and you're just on a bit of a serious calorie restriction type thing, you just need to keep in mind that your body is not going to be able to function as well. Like, you're already running on little sleep, and if you're not giving any nutrients, then it's going to be struggle to perform its various different energy enhancing kind of mechanisms that it needs to do. So what happens is that your body becomes depleted in not only the macronutrients, obviously, your carbohydrates, proteins, and healthy fats, but also your micronutrients as well. Now these are, a lot of them have to do with supporting the energy supporting your body in producing energy. So when we're not getting enough nourishment, those energy producing part of our body goes into basically shutdown mode, or down regulates, I suppose, for a better word. So what happens is the body doesn't have enough fuel from the food that you're eating, and that can also apply to if you're eating a lot of processed food as well that has not much nourishment in it. Your body's not getting that nutrient that it needs to survive and function. So it's not getting the fuel or the building blocks to perform basic functions. So for example, one thing that it will do is the body will actually decrease producing thyroid hormones. And for those of you who know much about the thyroid, that is very much connected with our metabolism. So if our thyroid hormones are not functioning as well because they're not getting enough, their body's not getting any nourishment, then your metabolism slows right down. And we know what happens, over the long term, if our metabolism kind of gets a bit sluggish, then we tend to gain weight as well. And the reason I wanted to share this little bit of a story, I suppose, is because I remember when I was still a student studying nutritional medicine at clinic, and I had a guy come in and see me who worked very much a 24-hour shift operation at customs in the airport. Now, he came to me because he wanted help with weight loss. Now, I asked him to, give me a bit of a food diary of what he's eating, when he's eating, over like a 24-hour period. And to my absolute surprise, he was hardly eating anything at all. He was really just down to like one meal a day, and even that one meal, there was hardly any, food intake. So his body was starving, and no wonder he's struggling to lose weight, but his energy as well, he was just relying on caffeinated drinks. Can I say within that time period, that 12 hours as well, I think he started at 3 o'clock in the morning, and by about 7 or 8 o'clock in the morning, he'd already had 4 cups of coffee. So no nourishment, but his poor system is getting fired up with so much caffeine. And what, again, and to my horror as well, unfortunately, is he said that his doctor had prescribed him a drug called Duramine to help him to lose weight. Now, what Duramine does, I'm not sure if you're aware, but its mechanisms is to actually suppress your appetite, so you don't eat. And again, in order to lose weight, have energy and so forth, we need to be eating. We need to be fueling our body with the right nutrition to help it to be able to perform and to be able to function even more critically if you are somebody like an incredible shift worker that gets around and runs on very little sleep at all. So I wanted to kind of share that with you, I suppose, just if any of you can sort of resonate with that. Also to think, many drugs out there and so forth do come with nasty side effects, and believe it or not, Duramine is something that also can cause as a side effect is sleeplessness. So, not saying that would happen to everyone, but if it's a side effect that is going to affect your sleep, shift workers should not be on it. In my mind, anything that's going to disrupt your sleep, steer clear away from it, because you need to be preserving your sleep. So number one was all about making sure that you are kind of giving enough food, that you are eating enough. And secondly, in order to kind of boost your energy when you're tired, this is something that might sound really, really simple, but I think people kind of forget about it, is that we need to be consuming more hydrating foods. And what I mean by hydrating foods are those that actually have a high water content. Because besides the insufficient sleep, we know that that's a big cause of fatigue. But the second big reason why a lot of us experience fatigue is that we're dehydrated. It's definitely one of the leading causes of fatigue. Most of us aren't drinking enough, which is just going to escalate your feelings of fatigue. So if you are sleep deprived and dehydrated, then you're definitely going to feel exhausted. Many biochemical reactions that take place in the body every day require water, so we do need to replenish the water that we actually lose. The statistics kind of vary, but we somewhere between 60 and 70% of our body is made up of water, so we need to be keeping replenishing it, so that all the biochemical reactions that are going in our body, one of it which has to do with energy, and then there's another one for sleep, so that's another whole different video, but it's, yeah, water is super important. So of course I would recommend drinking enough water, but we can also get it with our food as well. So there's all different types of fruits and vegetables that are high in water. So things like watermelon, strawberries, rock melon, cucumbers, zucchinis, celery, tomatoes, capsicum, cauliflower, having more soups. This type of thing is just a sneaky strategic way to help you when you are feeling tired, to up your water intake. That's going to help give you more energy. So it's just a little thing that you can start to include in your diet, is having more of those water-based foods to up your hydration levels, and it's also something to kind of eat as well when you're tired. So number 3, the third thing I want to mention when it comes to what to eat when we're feeling tired, is that we need to be focusing on consuming foods that are going to minimize our blood sugar spikes as well. Oh, hi Steve, thanks for joining me all the way from the UK. Still on shift, will be going, so might have to watch and catch up. That's fine. It's nice to see you here. Thank you for joining me. So consuming more foods that are going to minimize our blood sugar spikes. So what happens each time that we eat refined carbohydrates? So I guess firstly I should say that when we're tired, that is one of the things that we tend to seek out. And when I say refined carbohydrates, I'm talking really about processed kind of foods here, like stuff that's out of a box, because your brain is not getting sleep. It's crying out for sugar. Okay, it's going, well, if you're not going to let me sleep, please give me sugar or carbohydrates, because that's going to give me it instinctively knows that that's going to give you energy straight away. So that's why, for those of you who will be very familiar of this, is that we do tend to crave a lot of the sweet stuff when we haven't had enough sleep. It's your body's amazingly innate way that it works to seek out energy. It knows that's going to help solve its problem, even temporarily though, because each time that we eat refined carbohydrates, processed foods, so things like donuts, cakes, lollies, white bread, soda drinks, energy drinks, I know all of this is sounding familiar to some of you, biscuits, what happens is that they then get converted down into sugar in the bloodstream very, very quickly. This causes a rapid spike in your blood sugar, which will give you that initial energy, which is great, that initial energy boost, because again, like I said before, it's craving, you're not giving me sleep, so I want the energy, so give me the sugar. However, soon afterwards, so your blood sugar is going to go push because it goes up really fast, you'll crash, basically. You'll feel tired, flat and lethargic. You'll be on this bit of a roller coaster ride where you just crash and burn kind of thing afterwards. You've probably heard of the kind of terms of carb-induced coma. If we have a sit down and have a really big big pasta or pizzas or just on its own kind of thing, we just feel so tired and lethargic afterwards. It's because our blood sugar is spiked and then it's dropped, which is why soon after, like, it really only keeps you full for about an hour. Soon after, you're going to be craving it again. So it's not really the best type of food to be eating when you're tired, even though your body instinctively wants it. I think one of the big things that we as shift workers kind of really have to work on is our mindset, because shift work is a real mindset game. So often our body's wanting us to do this or eat this when it knows we shouldn't. It knows better, but we've got to fight for it. It's why I often have used the word, please don't rely on motivation to keep you healthy. Use discipline, because motivation wanes very quickly. But if you have the disciplinary mindset, knowing that you've got to do whatever you can to look after your health, and the reasons behind it usually tends to work a little bit better. New Year's resolutions, we know motivation's gone usually by day 4, or January 4. So yeah, so there we go. So stabilizing your blood sugar is what you want to kind of focus on. So what sort of foods? Things like foods that contain or lower GI, glycemic index foods, or they have a lower GI, because what they do is that they are absorbed and digested way more slowly than if you were just to sort of sit down and have sort of those sort of high kind of carbohydrate foods that I was just mentioning before. So this will lead to a slower rise and therefore a slower fall in your blood sugar levels to kind of keep you more stable during your shift. So even stable energy levels, which is kind of what we're wanting, isn't it? Most vegetables are low in glycemic index. You know, most of them are. Again, I'm all about just kind of eating real food here. And then you've got your nuts and your seeds and your yogurt, cottage cheese, eggs, along with incorporating more healthy fats in our diet. That's also going to help to stabilize our blood sugar as well. So if you can have things like avocados, olives, make yourself a bit of a guacamole dip, with some capsicum or celery sticks to kind of munch on. That's going to be really filling for you and super nourishing to keep you going. Olives and bean dips are also kind of great as well. They have they're just really good on your gut health as well, good high in fiber. And then of course we need to be eating even more foods that contain protein as well, because they're going to keep you feeling much fuller for longer, so you're not going to get sucked in by the magnetic spell of that vending machine that's in the corridor of your workplace. I know my previous workplace, I don't know if I've got anybody on that I used to work with, but we used to have right outside our lunchroom a Krispy Kreme's donut, like seriously right outside the lunchroom of where we worked. I think they kind of were very strategic about that. They knew that there were a lot of tired and sleep deprived people right in that office there. But yeah, it's not healthy at all. So we really need to be keeping you feeling fuller for longer so that it keeps you with that enough energy so that you're not going to get sucked into that type of food. So protein foods, again, are going to help with those blood sugar stabilizations for you, and things like having more eggs, nuts and seeds again, cottage cheese, Greek yogurt, nut butters, roasted chickpeas. And of course, it's not all about, when we think of protein, we just think of meat, but there's so many different types of plant-based proteins out there. Things like broccoli, cauliflower, Brussels sprouts, not to mention that vegetables are super, super good for our gut health, and gut health is another separate topic that I need to do because shift workers are kind of prone to a lot of those digestive kind of complaints, so we need to make sure our gut health is super, super important. I mean, you just have to think of like a racehorse doesn't, or a gorilla, like they don't eat meat, and look how much muscle a gorilla has from the protein that he or she has actually got from eating plant-based food. So there we go. So those are the three things I wanted to, just as a generalization, just talk about. Now I want to break it down into two parts for you, to split it up into two examples of different types of shifts and what can you do there. So firstly, I want to talk about what to eat when you're on an early shift, when you're tired. Okay, we all love those early shifts. So always. So let's, for example, say that you're going to start at 4 o'clock in the morning. Always, as soon as you get up, the first thing I would ever recommend you doing is to drink water, okay? Based on what I've just shared with you, okay, the importance of water and hydration. But remember, you've just been asleep for, I was going to say 7 to 8 hours there, but let's be realistic as a shift worker, maybe 5 or 6, maybe, particularly if you're starting at 4 o'clock in the morning, or 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. You've been asleep, so your body, as soon as you wake up, is severely dehydrated. So not only from that alarm waking you up at stupid o'clock are you tired, but because you're dehydrated, it's going to make things worse. So get some water into you some way, shape or form. Filtered water is best. Put the jug on if it's cold, it's winter like it is here in Australia. Just have some kind of a warming with a bit of lemon water. Find out how, make it work for you. I hear of a lot of people tell me, Audrey, I don't like water. You need to change that mindset, because your body is made up mostly of water. It doesn't need soft drinks. It doesn't need energy drinks. It desperately needs water. So you've got to find a way. Add bits of herbs in it. Chop up bits of fruit in it. Find your own way to drink water. First thing, as soon as you get up. Seriously, that will make a huge difference in your fatigue levels going forward for the rest of even that shift. Then what I recommend you doing is, even before you're kind of heading off to work, just have a couple, like a little small handful of something. So even just a mouthful of yogurt or a handful of nuts, just to give your body some kind of fuel to get going. Again, your body really wants to be in bed at the moment. It can't. You've got to go into work. But if you can give it some little thing to kind of keep it going, then that can also be helpful without sort of burdening your digestive tract too much straight away. And then, and this is where maybe about an hour and a half or so later. So you've driven to work, you know, you've started your shift for a little bit, about an hour and a half later, then have your cup of coffee. Because I know that there's plenty of coffee drinkers in this group. Then please go and have your coffee then. But please don't have it as soon as you wake up in the morning, which I know a lot of people do. But the reason behind that is each time that you drink a cup of coffee, or even if you go for an energy drink, heaven forbid, at that time of the day, it's like drinking a cup of stress. Seriously, it is having the same effect on your hormones. It sets off a whole cascade of stress-related hormones on your body because you're getting that huge kick of caffeine. And your body is already under stress because it works shift work, because you've been up at silly o'clock. So if you were to get up and then first thing have coffee, you're putting your body under a huge amount of shock. But if you've kind of left it a little bit, you've hydrated first, you had a little bit of food, then have your cup of coffee, then, you know, that. And again, I would never tell a shift worker to stop drinking coffee completely. Of course, it would be beneficial, but I'm a realist here. I always liked having my little mocha in the morning as well, but it's about strategically doing it. So, and then let's say, for example, for breakfast. Now, the most common breakfast that we eat is a cereal out of a box. I get it, it's easy, but when you really kind of sit back and read the packet ingredients in that box, it's kind of not usually very nourishing for a very depleted body already working kind of shift work. So this is you need to get a little bit creative, and again, it kind of takes a bit of work, but the night before, if you can make yourself something like a frittata or a quiche or something like that, that's going to be, you know, with your eggs and your bit of vegetables, it's going to give you, you know, some protein to kind of keep you going. And you can just, again, I'm not a big microwave fan, but again, I'm a realist on making things palatable so we can enjoy our food. You know, if you've made your little frittata or quiches or whatever, and you're taking those into work, pop them in the microwave for just, you know, 30 seconds or whatever. And then, you know, give yourself like a little bit of, you know, avocado on the side. So you're getting some healthy fats. Now, that's sort of a breakfast. I know it's going to take a little bit longer to prepare as opposed to just pouring something out of a box, but not that much longer. Will just give you some really good nourishment. You're getting some protein, you're getting some healthy fats. It's going to leave you feeling sustained for much longer, so that you don't fall victim to the magnetic spell of the vending machine or the Krispy Kreme donuts or whatever it kind of is, whatever your vice is. Your avocado and spinach, because both of those actually also contain magnesium, which also magnesium is a really essential mineral for so many different things, but one specifically is in the production of ATP, which is energy for our body. So that really is going to be a beautiful kind of a breakfast to kind of have. And then, so let's say late morning, so you're working a 4 till 12, and you know, later in the morning we usually want to go for coffee number 6, which I'm hoping by at this point you've only had one. But instead of having a coffee, what I suggest is having something like a green powder drink. Or green powder juice. Now, before you want to kind of throw things at me or disconnect and say, Audrey, you want me to drink green stuff, hear me out, okay? The reason why is because, and so I'm talking about having a green powder of something sort in coconut water. Now, coconut water is full of electrolytes, so your potassium, your magnesiums, and so forth. Really good for energy. But when you actually put green powder in it, so and something that is very food-based, it's going to help to alkalize your body. It's full of phytonutrients. It's going to nourish your body on a cellular level, which is what shift workers need. Again, it's so easy for us to become really quite depleted, purely because, there we go, I've already got one. Costa says, forget the green stuff. I knew that there's always going to be one. It's always going to be one. They're just so good for you. So and there's all different types of green kind of powders out there, but always look for one, look at the ingredients, and really make sure that it is really food-based. I've got one that's here, that's by a company here in Australia called Changing Habits. It's called Peak Performance Blend. I usually will have a shot of that in some coconut water later in the morning for exactly the same kind of reason. And it has things like barley grass, chlorella, spirulina, broccoli sprouts as well. Broccoli sprouts is super good at helping with insulin sensitivity, which is an issue that shift workers also kind of struggle with as well because of lack of sleep. So that, instead of coffee, please consider doing that. And it's your medicine. Like, some people are reluctant to want to eat something or drink something, but think of it as your medicine. And we know not all medicine tastes, great all the time. But this is serious. It's your health and well-being that we're talking about. And this is food-based, nourishment for your body. And it is very palatable when you have it with something like coconut water as well. So that's an example for early shift. Now let's flick it to what to eat on night shift when you're feeling tired, okay, for the night shifters amongst us here. So because on night shift it can be a little bit different of what's kind of happening with our body. It really is more of a case of really trying to stay awake when you're on night shift, because your body is screaming at you saying, I need to be in bed, I should be in bed, please let me go to bed. It just wants to kind of collapse on the floor wherever you are working. But we know that you can't. You've kind of got to power on. That's what makes shift workers superhuman kind of people. So when it comes to night shift, there's kind of a couple of things that we need to keep in mind. Is number one, a lot of our normal digestive functions slow right down at night. And for those of you who have seen that first video, Is There a Perfect Shift Work Diet? You will see that I did actually mention about that. Normal gastrointestinal functions slow down during the night. They don't function in the same way as during the daytime. In particular, the pancreas secretes less insulin, which is pivotal in helping to regulate blood sugar levels. So that means that regulating our blood sugar at night is going to be much harder just right from the get-go, because it's not functioning as it does normally. Also, our body temperature naturally drops around 3 to 4 o'clock in the morning as well. For those of you who do work night shift, I'm sure you're pretty familiar with that you get that bit of a cold chill kind of thing happening. And that's, believe it or not, that's a normal part of our circadian rhythms and a normal part of a bodily function. And it's actually designed to keep you asleep. So if you were normally sleeping, that drop in body temperature is designed to keep you asleep, because we need a lower body temperature to stay asleep. But that's why, you will notice that you will experience it on night shift. It's just a pity that you've got to be at work when you're not sleeping. So this is why night shift, when you're feeling tired, my recommendations are to have a small serve of something warm, and preferably in the form of more something like, liquid nutrition kind of situation, such as homemade soup or bone broths, which are very high in amino acids, which are really great at healing the gut, which again is something important for shift workers, and also to reduce inflammation. Inflammation is a leading cause for most chronic health conditions, so we always need to be focusing on gut health and reducing that inflammation. So if you're having something that is more in a liquid format, it's not going to burden your digestive system. Remember, it's not functioning as it is normally during the nighttime as it is during the day. And we know when we eat a big meal, we just feel so tired afterwards, which is the opposite that what we want for you guys. That just having that little bit of a nourishment is... Leonie says pumpkin soup is good. Totally agree. Totally agree. Leonie, particularly now, I love pumpkin. I just go mad for pumpkin. So good. Just having that really good, punch of nutrition. It's going to keep, warm you up a little bit. Plus also boost your liquid hydration as well. If you're having something like soups and broths and so forth. And again, it's being a bit sneaky and it's being a bit creative to up your hydration, because you're having more water. And again, it's not going to contribute if you're having a big meal of sorts to having, feeling so sluggish and tired afterwards. So homemade soups are definitely the way to go. Try not to get too overcomplicate things a little bit, or what sort of soups and everything. One thing I'd probably just say is really try and more go for the plant-based kind of soups, because it doesn't require meat is a lot harder to kind of break down in the body, so plant-based nutrients is going to be a lot easier for the body to kind of absorb. And again, it does contain protein as well, so so that's why my recommendations are in that instance is to have something liquid, more liquid nutrition during the night, something small though, nothing too heavy. Because if you have something too heavy, it's just going to make you feel even more tired, which is exactly what you don't want when you're on night shift. So there we go. That's just to what I wanted to share with you this morning, but this afternoon. So I'll just wrap up those key takeaways that I mentioned also earlier. is that number one, that you need to make sure that your body is sufficiently nourished, and that comes about from eating more raw whole foods, guys. It is simple as that. Getting back into the kitchen. Don't buy packaged foods, buy ingredients. Buy ingredients so that you can then start making your own food. Because without sufficient nourishment, the cells of your body are not going to be able to perform important, vital energy function activities that are necessary to kind of help with that debilitating fatigue that we have as shift workers because of the sleep disruption that we tend to experience. Number two is consume more hydrating foods. You know, that's going to have more water content. That's definitely going to have a huge impact on your fatigue levels. And number three, really focus on consuming more foods that are going to help to minimize those blood sugar spikes. So having more lower GI foods, glycemic kind of index foods, healthy fats, proteins, as opposed to the processed foods, which is, you know, is definitely going to give you that initial energy boost. We know that when we're sitting down there and we, you know, having that donut or whatever, it does give us that energy boost, but then we crash and burn later on. Not to mention that, you know, so we experience that rebound fatigue. Not to mention what it's doing to our body. Like it's this sort of food is quite toxic. I was talking about inflammation before. These sorts of foods is really quite toxic to our body and how it functions. Processed food is not our friend when we work shift work. A lot of us might think it is, which kind of is, I suppose, when we're desperate. But in a long-term kind of way, it's not. Our shift workers are so prone to being what I like to refer to as overfed and undernourished. Really, we're overeating and all the wrong types of food, which don't have any nutrient value in it. So we become quite depleted of nutrients, and that's why things like, again, these green powders. Costas, I don't know if you're still watching me, but get into your green powders. You know, it's a great way of getting nourishment right into a cellular level so that you're getting your more nutrients, but you also feel better as well as a result. So, yeah, but that's, Leanne says, that was great. I'm going to try the green stuff. What is the best coconut water? Oh, that's a good question. Because interestingly enough, I did buy something from Coles and Woolies maybe about a month ago, and it tasted awful. And it's the first time I've actually ever experienced a bad coconut water. I just wish I don't actually have the brand to kind of tell you, Leanne. Maybe I might try and find something and put it up afterwards. But generally speaking, all coconut waters I love. Like, as I said, there was just this one brand that I just thought, no, that just tastes awful. So just do a bit of tweaking. I usually have sliced lemon and cucumber in my water. Yeah, great. Yep, excellent. I mean, cucumbers is great, just like celery as well. Like, it's such a high water based kind of food. You know, and it's perfect for you know, dipping into dips, homemade dips. So you're getting a little bit of a hydration, and you're also getting a bit of nourishment from the plant-based foods when you're making your own home dips. Costas says, I'm going to the bakery. You want hot croissants? Oh, God. Oh, Costas, you're giving me high blood pressure, and I don't have high blood pressure. And you're all the way over at Greece, so I can't actually, you know, come over and rouse you at all. Yes. Oh, actually, funny you should say that. My sister is a nurse, and I remember when she worked in the emergency department many years ago, she was saying that around 6 o'clock in the morning at the end of a night shift, one of the doctors, residents, I think you call them, would often say, okay, I'm going to go for a 6 a.m. coffee and donut run. Who's interested? And I said, coffee and what run? And she said, yeah, coffee and donut run. And I went, at 6 a.m. after night shift, now you're going to have a coffee to keep you awake so you can't sleep, and a donut for breakfast. I was just horrified. Although she did share with me, she said, Audra, just, you know, she said that she wanted to tell me that she never partaked in that particular activity, but it was a little bit of a laugh. So, yeah. Lisa says, what is the green stuff called? I might get some. So, yeah, Lisa, it's from a company called Changing Habits. You're in Australia. Cindy O'Meara, if you know Cindy, she's one of the top nutritionists in Australia. She makes a lot of her food, like she makes food-based supplements and nutrition, which is, yeah, Cindy O'Meara and Dr. Libby Weaver are two of my big mentors in the whole nutrition world, and I love what they do with their food-based food, obviously, and supplements, because they're top notch, and they do so much research to make sure that it doesn't have any additives and preservatives and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, really kind of good one. Cassie says, suggestions for someone with a fructose intolerance. I'd probably have to do a bit more research on that one for you, Cassie. Yeah, I probably can't really answer kind of straight away with that question, but thank you for putting it forward. I'll do a bit of research for you and see if I can come up with a couple of little options for you. Is that kind of for night shift, for an early shift? What sort of shifts do you actually do work, just to give me a bit of an idea and see if I can come up with something that's kind of really specific with your question as well. So yeah. Oh, hi Joe, thanks for joining me. Oh, you're just joining now. I'm actually just about to wrap up and finish, so you'll have to kind of catch the replay. But yeah, but thank you so very much for everyone that's joined and watching, and you're asking me questions, which is great. I can't always see your comments. I'm seeing them scrolling through, and I'm trying to catch them as they pop up. So if I've missed anyone, I do apologize. But thank you everyone for joining me. I hope that you've sort of found this informative, valuable, something for you all to kind of think about moving forward with your when you're working on shifts, to kind of help to improve your energy, because our food does play a huge part on it. But it's when we're eating, what we're eating can either help to improve it or actually make it even worse as well. So we've kind of got to get a little bit creative. And I used to be, I suppose, fairly soft when I was initially working with my clients with shift workers, but now I'm starting to kind of come a bit more of the tough love approach, because thanks Leanne, thanks for watching. I really am now starting to come more of the tough love approach, because we have to. Shift workers are vulnerable to a lot of chronic health conditions. There is just that's the harsh reality of the situation. But my point there is that the research that I've done to kind of find out all this information is that, okay, well, that's fine, but I would say that most of these people that have, these shift workers that have undergone these and been involved in these clinical trials, a lot of them probably had no education or help or guidance on how to stay healthy working shift work. So of course they're not going to be healthy when you're working against, your 24/7 rotation. It's just, you're doing something that's completely opposite to how we've evolved as human beings. So, and everyone kind of gets into survival mode. So which is why I kind of run these trainings, is why I deliver face-to-face workshop training within workplaces as well as putting together some online programs for organisations as well. And I know that you all are not going to be able to sit in on a workshop before I deliver, because you live in all these exotic locations around the world. So I'm hoping that just by being a part of this group, that and what I share with you on this group will just help to kind of I can get the information to you in that way, shape or form. So anyway, don't forget to please just leave more comments below. If you're catching this on the live, please type in 1. If you're catching it on the replay, please type in 2. It just helps me to understand when people are jumping on and so forth. And if you've got any other questions for me, just pop it on and I'll take a look at it again later on in the day. But thank you everyone for joining me. I know I've had quite a lot of people on here today, and I just hope that you've found it valuable and it's something for you to think about, because shift workers are struggling with fatigue 100%, but we need to be doing whatever we can to help to mitigate some of this fatigue. Lisa says, thank you. You're most welcome, Lisa. Thanks for joining me. You're a very good attendee at my Facebook Live, so I do very much appreciate that. And Jess Williams, oh, thanks, Jess. Thank you very much as well for joining me today, and everyone else that's on the live. So yeah, enjoy the rest of your day or night, whatever it is for wherever you are in this part of the world. And here's to being a healthy shift worker, or a version of whatever that is for you. All right.